Okay. All right. Let's get started. So, hi everyone, and yeah, I'm not really planning to publish this, but if I end up doing so, then I don't know. All right. So I'm here today. Basically, I just wanna express things that I've been thinking, what's on my headspace lately, and what do I want to do moving forward. Okay. Um, as of now, it's a Thursday here, in Sydney, Australia. Um, I'm currently alone in this house, this big house that we built. Um, my wife is currently in the Philippines, actually in Malaysia at the moment, with my eldest son. They're going for a short break while it's school holidays. And my son, youngest, is currently in childcare at the moment. And one thing I kind of thought of and realized is that although right now it feels lonely, it feels like things are a bit slow. Same goes with work at the moment, it's not that demanding. Um, but I still realize that you know, there isn't enough time to do everything. Right? What I meant by that is that in this very moment, I might be thinking, oh, yeah, it's empty, no one's bugging you, you have this freedom of where do you spend the next, you know, few minutes or maybe an hour or so. Um, but then in the bigger or grander scheme of things, you still don't have enough time to do everything, between things that you want to do, things that you need to do, um, things that are aspirational in nature, things that are part of a hobby or exploration, things to explore physically, through travel or explore within yourself, internally, like understanding who you are better, and through self-reflection, like what I'm doing right now. Same goes with reading books, consuming more content, TV shows, videos, YouTube videos, TikTok, Instagram, movies, and so on, right? If you come to think of it, you don't really have that much time. And it strikes me because sometimes I fall into the trap of just do whatever, right? Like let the wind goes through, or let the wind tells you where to go, or go with the flow, pretty much. But yeah, like I'm just reflecting at the moment that despite it not being that busy or it being like demanding, I still do feel and realize that there's just not enough time to do everything. So what does that really mean then? Like, okay, we've put emphasis on not having enough time. I'm currently 31, turning 32 this year, and if I'm lucky, I might make it until 80, maybe more, maybe less, who knows. So I got around 40 to 50 years more to spend. And how do I really want to spend that? Um, and what sort of like things that I want to do? Things that I like, things that would not just make me happy, but um, things that are reasonably that would make sense. You know what I mean? Like obviously going into things that make sense. Like obviously I just can't go not to work or forget about everything and just follow my dream or something like that. Like that's where I'm conflicted in the moment, right? Like where do you spend the rest of the years? Um, so I think at least as a guiding framework that I'm looking at the moment is that whenever there's a chance to choose between my family and everything else, I'll do my best to choose the family, right? And same applies with that time, that concept of togetherness or um, being with the family. So it's not just about physically being with them. It's also knowing that, in the grander scheme of things, there, you know, that time will pass by as well. Whether that's through my wife, um, my kids. So I think the base framework or base thinking that I'm looking for is I want to have like moments with them, right? It's not about really the length of time being with them, but it's about not just really the quality, but the moments of being with them. The good times and the not so good times. Um, it's about being present on that moment. Okay. Um, and again, right? Like that's like the basic principle in there. And to kind of like internalize further, I think it also boils down into choosing them before myself, right? Um, Again, in a healthy way. What does that mean? Yeah, for sure, you would get it in a way that prioritizing them in terms of like nurturing them instead of nurturing myself. Um, but at the same time, I need to look after myself to make sure I'm capable of nurturing them. Okay, and that goes into how about myself, right? Like what's in it, beyond the family. Um, things that are giving me joy. Um, Again, joy is different from happiness. Joy is about something much more meaningful, and it's lasting. It's not something on the moment. Um, I do realize that things that really gives me joy is when I'm addressed with problems, technical problems in particular, and I get to have a sense of the capability to solve it, or have the capacity or the ability to deliver that complex solution towards that complex problem. And that's really what gives me joy. That's why I've come to a point now that I'm not really after a specific technology or a specific approach. It's really the thing that gives me satisfaction is when I'm faced with this type of challenges that keeps me motivated, but at the same time motivated enough that I know it's possible and it's doable, but not impossible. Like because if you're faced with a challenge or situation that's impossible, that's also something I don't want to have. Um, so what does that mean then? Like for me, like right now I have multiple avenues, right? I'm currently a director at Playtime Solutions. I'm starting this data practice, and it's been a year, and we're still at that point of really getting out there and really trying to figure this out on what to do with the practice, and at the same time we're still forming that identity, right? That's gonna take more time, more months, years, and so to come, right? So yeah, that itself is a like a learning and challenging experience for me that I want to continue on for the next couple of maybe years. And yeah, like there's that deeper purpose of trying to do really good things that make sense, things that would give myself and the company joy. um, then other than playtime, I now it's in my radar really to have a good and established offshore capability in the Philippines. As of the moment, I do partner with a friend of mine over there across a different portfolio that I'm affiliated with, and yeah, like I think a part of me wants to be more involved into the operations of that thinking. I don't know that thing yet, um, but I need to figure that out as well. And at the same time, I also I'm involved with training, like with Technofocus, like usually at nighttime or in a like on a dead hour, serving UK, US, India, and other time zones. And I like what I'm doing there because as a consultant, it also gives me a perspective or a avenue to express my learnings, and be more authentic and like with the training that I do, I'm much more I guess the content that I deliver is much more profound because I have the exposure and the experience that's happening in the real world. Like training is not like a full-time job for me. That I address it in a way just like how things are in universities or in colleges. So yeah, like I think that gives me a good, platform to really voice out um, my my learnings, right? In a much more structured course syllabus. But same goes with the community as well. Like the community is much more open. We're in through conferences, meetups, webinars. I actively participate. There are a lot of like interesting topics that I'm really following in. Things like you know um, vector database and um, yeah, and so on and so forth. Like yeah, there are things that I'm much more interested in, like learning this so that I know that in few years time, this investment of learning will give some real fruitful value um, with where I am at the moment and where I'll be. And when I engage with conversations with customers and like potential clients and stuff like that, like it really gives me a good understanding of technology and where this could go, right? So yeah, like I think that's to be successful in a consulting career, I think it's about understanding or leveraging your past experience, right? To kind of like ground yourself of like having honed those hours you've spent looking at the monitor, solving complex problems here and there, getting insights from different organizations here and there, right? And about seeing where this future of technology can come in, and being in the moment of like being reasonable of like what can we do now, what can be done now, or in a certain period of time that is reasonable. um like one example of that is now we're having conversations about document intelligence, this whole OCR capabilities, and like at scale, right? Like if you look at it a couple of years ago, this might be a very expensive and complicated operation, but now we're really expanding that as something that's relatively simpler, right? Yeah, so I guess there's so many things I've been talking about, right? And not to mention, I still have the MVP stuff over there, so I've been, I'm still active in the community. I'm very passionate as well of where the Microsoft technologies are going, where Azure is going, where this Microsoft Fabric, Azure OpenAI, and all these different capabilities are going. I have a very good understanding of some of the intents of these technologies and how can individuals, organizations, and businesses leverage these technologies. Um, yeah, and not to mention, I'm also writing a book for O'Reilly. with, for my Azure Data Fundamentals book. Yeah, and again, it's a work in progress as well for me to kind of like gauge, because of where my head is at the moment. I'm having that more than a decade of experience, but I need to still ground myself of like what's in it for a beginner, right? Like how can someone really get started with this? Uh, um, yeah. So many things are happening at the moment, but given that, I think I'm still, I guess I'm happy with where I am in life. I am, again, figuring things out as well on what's next, in terms of the personal aspect of things, like um and like yeah, I can't even express it properly, but like a part of me always keeps on looking for growth, right? Like where's my growth area, right? Where's that next growth area for me? And I think that's about being a really good father, right? Being a supportive husband and like a really good partner to my wife. um, so yeah, I think that's an area of growth I am really focusing on at the moment, um, without really compromising everything else. I think where the compromise is, or where the sacrifice is at the moment, is around the personal wants. Things like watching movies, watching series. I've come to a point now that it's becoming boring for me. Even reading books, like having to read, whether it's novels or self-help, or like I don't find it that interesting at this very moment in time. I don't also get a lot out of it, and that's fine, right? Again, because I'm in that point where I don't really need help, with the self-help, and I also don't need more information that I don't really need. um, so that's where I am. Like I just want to be focused on the tech, the problems that I'm faced with, growing playtime, growing my capabilities, figuring out that offshore capability, um, and like being a better individual, better family member. um, yeah, I guess that's really it. I yeah, like I'm things like um, health, and exercise, and being lean and looking good, and those type of things. I guess they'll just take a little bit of you know I guess less priority, because doesn't really matter that much, to be honest, for me at the moment. I don't see it as a problem at the moment. uh, Although obviously there's that concept of health, just making sure you're healthy somehow, um, but without much effort and without much compromise of everything else. Okay, I think yeah, in summary, what I want to do is really do things a bit slower, in a way that I am there in the moment without really bothered on 20, 30 different things. Really focus on it, focus on high impact activities, focus on high impact work, um, have really good moments with my family members, really be there, enjoy it while it's in there. um, take the whole wealth game, money game on a kind of like long-term approach rather than short-term. And um, yeah, I guess it's really about seeking things on things that makes you satisfied on that day, right? Like it's about winning the day rather than being anxious of not being successful right now and aiming to be to get there as fast as you can. Yeah, like I think the key message for me is trying to win the day, with the given limited time that you have, or given the time that I only have at the moment. Okay. Um, yeah, I guess that's really it. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like I'm still new at this. I'm still new at this expressing what I'm thinking outside of the whole technical sphere. So I'm not really sure. I'm still making this up as we go along. But so far, I know, or I want to be contented and satisfied on a daily basis, and that's gonna give me joy. I think that's gonna help me win the game on the long term. And yeah, I guess it's really what all of those books are telling you, right? Like being happy at this very moment, being satisfied at this very moment, and that's really the key of winning in this life. So yeah, that's it. Thanks very much.